Pulmonologists will say main stem bronchi. You can also say that. So you should know this view, and it also turns up in Bio 10 in a slightly different version. Then you should know the main branching here. You don't have to know all of the subsidiary branching, but on this, you should know the trachea and the primary bronchi, or you can say main stem bronchi. And then the trachea gives rise, in most cases, to just one left primary bronchus and one right primary bronchus. You don't have to say which is left and which is right. And then each of those there's one for each lung in most people. Some people have an extra primary bronchus going to a particular lung. That's called a supernumerary primary bronchus. That doesn't show here, though. The vast majority of people don't have that. So we'll just stick with what the majority shows, which is what this shows. Here's the trachea, and then it branches to give rise to primary bronchus. And the carina is right over here. That's where it's located. And then there's one of these for each lung. And then within a lung, secondary bronchi branch off, one for each lobe. And then within a lobe, so you can see this maybe better on this side. So here's a primary bronchus on this side. Here are secondary bronchi, one for each lobe. Then within a lobe, there is subsidiary branching going to the divisions of lobes called segments. So I prefer to call them tertiary bronchi, but many pulmonologists will say segmental bronchi. The lobes are partitioned by sheets of connective tissue into segments. Okay. So there's one of these tertiary bronchi for each segment, and then after that, within a segment, there are quaternary bronchi, and then fifth level and sixth level and so on, till you get down to bronchioles. I won't ask you to identify anything past tertiary bronchi. So here we have primary bronchi. The carina is here. And then secondary bronchi, one for each lobe, and the tertiary bronchi, one for each segment within a lobe. Okay. Then on this one, you should know the gallbladder. I probably will just ask it as a whole, whether it's asking fundus of the gallbladder and clotting of the gallbladder. And then you should know the cystic duct, the common hepatic duct, and the atlas says bile duct, but most anatomists, that includes me, prefer to say common bile duct, because all of these ducts are transporting bile. So here, the cystic duct, which is the duct of the bladder, and the common hepatic duct fuse to form the common bile duct, which then goes to the duodenum. And then you should know, I would call this the hepatic portal vein, but I'll accept just portal vein as well. The reason I want to say hepatic portal vein is because there's another portal vein in the body as well called the hypophyseal portal vein, which connects the hypothalamus with the pituitary gland. So there are actually two portal veins in the body. So this one is the hepatic portal vein. And then this is the common hepatic artery, which gives rise to proper hepatic arteries, one for each side of the liver. So those are the key things on this. But you assume the gallbladder is definitely on, and probably the cystic duct, and possibly both the common hepatic duct and the common bile duct, but at least one of those. Then here's the diaphragm. So viewed from superior looking toward inferior. So you should know the diaphragm. This is the muscle of the diaphragm. Here's part of the pericardium, which is blocking your view of the central tendon of the diaphragm. And then you should know, here is here we have the descending aorta passing through the aortic hiatus in the diaphragm. And here we have the inferior vena cava passing through to go to.
Professor, this is not labeled in the atlas. They don't. These structures you're pointing at are not labeled in the atlas.
Well, this is labeled, isn't it? There's a
No.
label, there's a label on here.
Is that what it
Is
is?
there an arrow
Says
or a
no,
line
thoracic.
going to number 23 to the?
It says
descending
thoracic aorta. Thoracic aorta, is
Yeah.
that correct?
Right, now that's good. You know that the descending aorta is divided into the part in the thorax called,
Okay.
and that can be called the thoracic aorta.
Could we just go over that one more time then? Because I didn't see the small numbers there pointing to the structures.
Okay, well, this number is pointing to this,
Okay.
which is, and you can say descending aorta, or you can say thoracic aorta.
Okay.
This is where the thoracic aorta ends. That means the thoracic region of the descending aorta. And then just a little south of this, the abdominal aorta begins, on the other side of that. And then there's somewhere, there's a number on the inferior vena cava, right here. And then here's the esophagus. And they all pass through their own apertures in the diaphragm called hiati. So there's an esophageal hiatus where somebody can get hiatus herniated. And then there's an opening in the diaphragm for the descending aorta. And then there's one for the inferior vena cava.
Thank you.
This is restricted to mammals. Birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fish don't have a diaphragm. But birds have the best respiratory systems on the planet. But they don't have a diaphragm, so their thoracic and abdominal regions are confluent. So how do they pull that off? Well, it's because they have other stuff. They have other stuff, which we can't get into because birds are not on the causality. But you see, there's something interesting here, because they have the best respiratory systems on the planet. Their lungs are superior to our lungs. But they don't look at us and smirk when they see us, because they don't know that. Nevertheless, they have that. Then we get into this. So there's both this view and this view. They're very similar. But this one includes the descending aorta, and note the celiac artery and the superior mesenteric artery branching off the descending aorta over here. And note the renal vein blocking the view of the renal artery. This would have to be dissected away. We have to flip it, to see the renal artery, which is dorsal to this. And note the adrenal gland and the kidney. I could conceivably ask the superior and the inferior poles of the kidney, but I'll probably just say kidney. But you should know the opening through which everything that goes in, and everything that comes out, comes out. It can be called the hilus, or that can also be pronounced hilus, or there's another synonym which is hilum, and that's the one used in the atlas. So that's an opening here where the blood vessels either go in or come out, depending on whether it's the artery or the vein, and the ureter comes out. So you should know the ureter as well. And then here, this one includes the inferior vena cava instead of the descending aorta. So this is very similar. Assume that the adrenal gland is test legal, the kidney and the adrenal gland have a high probability of being asked, and of course the ureter has a high probability of being asked, and the hilus or hilum has a high probability of being asked as well. Then we have this, and this is like the kidney dissection that I showed. That reminds me of something about that one, by the way, which I want to mention right now. I mentioned this to one group, but not to the other group. And that is in the kidney which shows this, there is a renal cyst. You should be aware of that. And it looks like a vacuity in the kidney. This one doesn't have a renal cyst. But that dissection that I emphasized, which shows all of this, does have a renal cyst, and you should be able to identify it as a renal cyst. That's an anomalous entity produced by a genetic error. Wherever there's a cyst, there's less functional tissue. So one cyst isn't going to really matter a lot, but if you have lots of them, that's called polycystic renal syndrome. It reduces kidney function a lot. So you should be able to identify the renal cyst on the wet stuff. And then you should know that the same things on this that I showed on the wet stuff. That is, now just look at this because there's some confusion here. You know, one number just says renal medulla, and then other numbers say renal pyramids. So you should understand that this is a renal pyramid, and this is a renal pyramid, and here's another renal pyramid, and here's still another one. And then all of the renal pyramids taken together make the renal medulla. That consists of all of the renal pyramids taken together. That's a probable question on the exam where I would ask one of the pyramids for A, you know, and then say, what are they all taken together for B, which is the renal medulla. Then here we have minor calyces, and then here's a major calyx. Here's another major calyx. They fused it from the renal pelvis. And then flowing out of the renal pelvis and continuous with it is the ureter. And then the renal pelvis and all the calyces sit in a cavity over here, which on which there may or may not be a number. So you should know this cavity. I pointed this out on the wet stuff. That's called the renal sinus. So the renal pelvis and the calyces are in the renal sinus. That's a chamber in the kidney. And most people have what's called structural fat in there because it acts as a shock absorber. And the adipose, the triglycerides in the adipose vacuoles and the cells in that fat are only metabolized if you go into extreme starvation, you know, because that has structural significance. And then the cortex is over here, and then on the very outside, I don't think there's a number on it. You see, there's a very thin layer there.
Capsule.
That's right, the renal capsule, fibrous capsule, and that's made of dense irregular connective tissue. And I pointed that out.